What I would recommend to my House members is, close down the January 6th Kangaroo Court Committee. Close that one down. And have a new committee on the riots of 2020 when they caused billions of dollars in damage and politicians were bailing people out of jails and encouraging this to happen. So let's have hearings on that. Let's have hearings on the over close to now 50 pro-life pregnancy centers in America that have been firebombed. I'm against political violence in America. I had one of my volunteers attacked. By the way, I tweeted out by 4 animals. And the press says, oh, no, it wasn't 4 animals. It was only 2. And then it comes out in the police report he was attacked by 2 thugs and they're 2 German shepherds. So I was right the whole time. All right? I was right. They put German shepherds on the guy. They spent a week attacking the guy and not the victims. And not the victim of it. Because that's what they do. They meaning the local media. So anyway, they did that. But I'm against political violence. So let's have hearings on why and how language like what Schumer said when you stand before the Supreme Court and threaten the Supreme Court, and then some guy gets on an airplane, flies to Maryland, and is captured outside the home of Kavanaugh, ready to murder him and maybe a couple other justices. Okay, that's real. Let's have hearings on that, and let's ask the FBI, where are these arrests? And by the way, where's the investigation on the Biden laptop thing? And where I promise you guys, can you imagine if that laptop had belonged to Don Jr. or somebody, maybe even like a 3rd cousin of Donald Trump, maybe a 4th cousin. It would have been, I mean, we would have had a 5-part CNN special, America under threat, corruption in America, but it's the double standard. But when that double standard gets a hold of the government, and here's the other one, guys. We just learned, because somebody did the investigation on it, Congress should have has the power to do it, and now will if we have a majority, to subpoena these records. And you learn that you have these people at Department of Homeland Security coordinating with the tech companies, having these meetings once a month about who are we going to label a liar, who are we going to have disinformation. Guys, do you know that a year and a half ago, if I stood here and said to you or put out a video saying, I think the virus could have come from a lab in China that would have taken down my post. Today, the consensus is that there's at least as good a chance that it came out of a lab accident as it did from some pangolin, whatever the hell a pangolin is. I've never seen a pangolin. But whatever a pangolin is, I think the lab that happens to be the leading lab in the world doing this kind of research is just as likely. And now the experts will tell you that. That would have gotten you knocked off. The Biden thing, the Biden laptop thing, they shut it down. I've never seen the media circle the wagon and say, we won't even report on it. We'll shut it down because of it. All this has to be looked at. All of this has to be investigated. And this is not revenge. People think, oh, this is revenge, this is retribution. No, this is accountability. This is oversight. This is our job. That's what you're sending us there to do. So that's important. Because in the end, our responsibility is to leave our children what was left to us. I am under no illusions about where I live. And I think I've lived here my whole life. I'm an American, born here. I know nothing but America. But I have been blessed with something other than being a U.S. citizen, which is an extraordinary blessing. I've been blessed to be raised by and around people that know what life is like in other places. And when you are raised by people, or when you are someone who knows what life is like in other places, you don't have time for silliness about how systemically evil America is or how terrible America is. Because you know what terrible and evil looks like. And you understand is America... like when they talk about our history, well, our history has blemishes. Yeah, nobody's history is perfect. I never said our history is perfect because our history was written by mortal men. Our history is not perfect. Our history is just better than everybody else's. By far, our history is better than anybody else's. You understand how blessed we are to live in a country where being an American in a lot of other places in the world, being whatever the name of that country is, that it's a race. It's a skin color. It's an ethnicity. It's a common lineage. In America, American is not a skin color. American's not a race. American is not an ethnicity. American is people from everywhere, from all over the world, who live and share this blessed land and have done an extraordinary thing for 240 years. An extraordinary thing that's inspired and changed the world. And continue to do so. You ever watch the Olympics? You watch the Olympics and these athletes go on the podium and you realize right away, and I'm not saying this as my observation is, there is an athlete from America representing virtually every other country we're competing against because their grandparents came here, their great-grandparents, their parents, whoever. That's an extraordinary thing. Now, there has to be rules for how you do it. There has to be a process. But that's an extraordinary achievement. But what's really extraordinary is that this country was founded on an idea that mankind had never heard about for 5,300 years of recorded history. No one had ever tried to run a country on the idea that you had rights that came from God, not from government. No one understood that. But this country was founded on that powerful principle. And it has spent 240 years perfecting it. Do you recognize that every single great movement in American history, every one, slavery ended, women got the right to vote, the end of segregation and organized discrimination and legalized discrimination, all of the progress was all built on the bedrock of someone demanding that we live up to our founding principles. Even Dr. King, when he gave his speeches, he would talk about live up to the promise of our Declaration of Independence and our founding. Not get rid of the Constitution, not pack the Supreme Court. That was the powerful principle upon all progress in this country. And it's extraordinary, and it's special, and it's worth fighting for and protecting. But it's not automatic, because the freedoms that are given to us from our Creator are natural, but they don't come natural to man. Man, because of its fallen nature, is inclined to tyranny. Mankind, because we are fallen creatures, are inclined towards trying to govern over others, the powerful over the weak, and tell people what to do. We saw that firsthand during the pandemic. There are people that were fired. There are people in our military that have lost their positions or are about to. There are people whose businesses were ruined because they wanted to tell people what to do. And we're not anarchists. We have to have rules. But we can't do that at the expense of our liberty that made our God-given rights possible. And so this is the nation that we now fight to preserve. And that's something that should unify all Americans. And it's worth fighting for and protecting, because if America is no longer the greatest nation on earth, and what we lose here, if America is no longer special, because it is possible for America to continue to be a rich country and a powerful one, but not a special one, then we will be the first generation of Americans whose children and grandchildren did not inherit a country better than the one that was left to us. And I want no part of that. You want no part of that. Most of us want no part of that. And that's why we have to fight to ensure that people that don't understand that do not have their hands on the levers of power in this country. And that's what drives me. That's what drives me every single day. So at the end of the day, I say this to you. We love this country with all of our heart. It's a country worth fighting for. If you don't love America and you don't like it, you have the freedom to leave. You can leave. No one ever does. Well, except for like Hollywood actors that get on Twitter after they lose an election and they get all freaked out. I'm leaving America. I'm renouncing my citizenship. Nobody ever follows up on it, by the way. They never do. And the couple that did is because they didn't want to pay taxes, so they became citizens of the Bahamas or one of these tax havens. But they never leave. They never leave. I've never heard. Have you ever heard of a boatload of American refugees arriving in Cuba? I've never heard of it. Fugitives, maybe fugitives leave. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. There's a bunch of people that stole money from Medicaid and Medicare that are hiding in Cuba, but not Americans that are seeking a better life, like, oh, we're going to get on a raft and we're going to go somewhere else. It doesn't happen. And there's a reason for it. It's amazing. These people, you listen to them. America has so many problems. It's so evil. It's so bad. But somehow, 5,000 people a day break the law and try to get in here somehow to this horrible place. How ridiculous is that notion? But if they don't like it, they don't have to stay. We can't force anyone to be a part of it. I'm not asking them to leave. I'm just saying you're welcome to. And, I did ask some people to leave once. So I'll be honest with you. Well, here's what happened was that there was these protests in Cuba demanding liberty, and that scam Black Lives Matter organization put up on Twitter their support for the Castro evil regime. And I said, I am going to offer the assistance of my office to process the visas and immigration paperwork of any member of this group that would like to leave to Cuba. They haven't taken me up on it yet. Because first the leader would have to sell the mansion she bought with the money from Nike. So anyway, going back to all of this that I'm saying, this is an extraordinary country and it's worth preserving and fighting for. And if you don't like it, you don't have to be here. But we're not going to let anyone destroy it. We're never going to allow anyone to destroy the greatest country in the history of the world. And that's what these elections are about. And we are blessed not just to live in a great country, but in a free one where our voice is going to be heard. It's being heard now by voting. It'll be heard on Tuesday night. Let's win. Let's win big. Because when you win big, you send a message. And the message is this: we love America. You will not destroy it. We want common sense back in our politics. And we want to leave our children what our parents left for us, the greatest nation in the history of mankind. Thank you, guys. God bless.